After Turkey's earthquake, there's growing anger over why so many buildings collapsed. More than 100 arrest warrants have been issued in connection with unsafe buildings, and the government's been accused of turning a blind eye to building irregularities. Our Europe correspondent Nick Beak has spent the last 3 days investigating the collapse of one building in Gaziantep, where 136 people died, and sent us this report.
Night and day, they've been waiting for a miracle. But there's no sign of one. Their relatives lived in the most expensive part of this city. That meant nothing, as their apartment block turned to dust. Emre, whose 5 loved ones are missing, says so many people are to blame.
They have the blood of the people who died here on their hands. It's not right to scapegoat the contractor. The ones who approved this building are the government and the state.
The next morning we come back to try to find out why these 4 blocks collapsed, while all around, others stood firm. We learn from officials on the ground that at least 136 people have died here. A community ripped apart in seconds. Everything is gone, Emel Filik weeps, before revealing there had been concerns that water was weakening the building.
It was an accident waiting to happen. 6 months ago, the head of the Residents' Association told us about the problems of the building. She said our buildings might collapse at the smallest earthquake. Let's strengthen the pillars, she said, but nothing.
Neighbours tell us a former security guard at the complex could give us more information.
I witnessed the defects with my own eyes. When I touched the concrete columns, it would crumble to dust in my hands, as though it wasn't concrete at all. The iron was rusting in the columns. The rainfall was damaging and corroding the iron.
In the middle of all this death and destruction, we need to remind ourselves that these days homes can be built or strengthened to withstand earthquakes of this magnitude. 24 years ago, this country got a big wake-up call when more than 17,000 people were killed in a previous quake. Since then, the Turkish authorities have failed to protect their people, whether it's those living in new builds or in older properties too. Opposition politicians say tens of thousands have now paid with their lives.
In the civilized countries, earthquakes happen and people don't die. Unfortunately, in Turkey, these kind of earthquakes happen every 10 years, and people die, and they say it is a destiny. No, it is not a destiny. If we just do what the science says, nobody dies.
A man connected to our particular complex in Gaziantep has been arrested. His lawyer tells us he's done nothing wrong, and the building was well constructed. The local authority says no complaints were made, and so no inspections were ever carried out. President Erdogan says it was not possible to be prepared for such a disaster. But in light of this story, one replicated across the country, how many in Turkey can truly sleep soundly? Nick Beak, BBC News, Gaziantep.